All right, week 3 in CIT 15, and obviously I didn't make it into the classroom as I thought I might last week, if you remember me saying that, but that's okay. I think these are working okay right now. This week we have a little something different. This will be relatively short, and then you're going to have a video below that I'll talk about at the end that you're going to watch. One of my favorite, honestly. I think the whole thing is worth watching, but I'm going to have you only watch a part. So, one thing they're going to talk about. Actually, I'll wait. I'll wait till we get there. So, turning to the screen or the overhead here. Overhead. That's funny. Topics for this, which will be your part one. Right. So, class chat. I set this up already. By this time, which is in week 2, remember I record a week ahead of time. Several of you have already gotten in there. I would like to say this, right? So it's fun to watch people connect and, be social. That's totally cool, right? Just keep it academic whenever possible. So don't go off the rails too much, right, when connecting on the chat. Because the intent of the chat is for you to get support. Right. And so what you're going to hear me say, let me say that clearly, from now in the coming weeks is when you contact me directly with questions about coursework, anything like that, I'm going to point you to the two resources I've given you, which is Class Chat, which I think is the best option, and the second option is the discussion board that is up in week 0. Okay, so let me just show you that. And I already done this, but right, so there are questions here which I do subscribe to. Okay, so nothing new in here. So because I've subscribed, I get an email, right? So that's there. But I do believe the best option is the chat, and I'll say that there are some folks already hanging out, chatting there, which is totally cool, right? So that's the other thing, right? Is about just keeping that in the context of where it's at and understanding how that works. All right. So a reminder again, right? My IT lab has to be purchased before September 2nd. Let me see if you got that. It has to be purchased. If you don't, after that date, you will not be able to purchase it, which means you will not be able to pass this class. So please make sure you're getting that done in the timely manner. Because this is a week 3 video, you've already gone through a version or your first exposure to the My IT Lab simulations. So, if you use a trial account, you'll need to have converted that. Okay, so having that as our topic, let me just say that Pearson, who is the publishing company that makes My IT Lab, is your first line of support. Okay, so let me show you. If I move over to My IT Lab and I go to students and I hit support, we're using the Office 2013 version, right? And it talks about this, and I kind of mentioned it last time, right? About setting up your computer, videos you might watch. But this would be the one if you want to contact Pearson, right? And they have, if you want to connect with them, right? They have a phone number. I'm looking for it. Let me see if it's here. Signing, contacting support, right? So this is their support line or their support site, right? And then you can go in here and drill down and look. Let's see, still looking, you contact them. So I guess it takes a couple of links in to see that. I believe I do have a phone number, so I will find their phone number and also post it in this week's write up so you have that. Okay, so the important thing is to know that they have a pretty active and involved site for support. So most of the time when you run into things, it possibly is that you're doing is something in My IT Lab and it's not working. Oftentimes students may be attempting to do assessments without doing training, because the thing is about My IT Lab, and put this in your notes, is that it's very opinionated. And opinionated in this case means that it wants you to do it the way it wants you to do things. So learning its method is good, even though you may know an alternative method for doing a particular function in Word, Excel, or Access. You really want to get it the way they have it and then do it the way they demonstrate. And even in those cases, you may run into issues where it still doesn't necessarily function properly. My suggestions are use Chrome whenever possible, clear out cache, make sure there's no spyware, try to decrease everything else, try to shut everything else down that your computer might be running at the time to just give the resources to my IT lab. Okay? All right, back to here. So the other thing is, I talked last week about the whole how I work as far as when due dates are and when I work. I've said this to the students in the classroom, so I'm going to say it to all of you now. Is that there is a real benefit to working ahead. So if you submit something at least 24 hours before it's due, because I get up every morning, again, something could happen, but generally this is true, is that I get up and I have a morning routine. I actually run, I do yoga, I meditate, and then I sit down and grade whatever has been submitted. So by knowing that process, what you can benefit from is that if you submit work early and there's something missing or something not quite right, and I will give you feedback, you have the opportunity to redo that before the due date. And in that case, it's not late, right? Is that you just have the opportunity because you've done the wonderful job of working ahead. So do that, right? Do that and benefit from that process that I make available. Right. And the other thing about this is that when you're doing work that requires replies, just know that until both replies are done, I don't grade it, even though I may see it, and because I don't want to have to go back through it again for some reason. So if you are doing work that requires replies, know that that's true, that I will not grade it until those are complete. Okay. The last thing before we get into the what you're going to do for the second part is this has been true for every student I've worked with. So when I was talking about in week 1 in the Hello World, and this may be a duplicate, but it's okay if it is, that you may not see the pop out, but you probably have an open in a new window or tab that works identical from my viewing of it. Somebody else may have a different experience, but for everyone that's contacted me that I gave them that instruction to use that, if they didn't see the pop out, to use the open in a new window or new tab, it worked the same because on the second screen, still in the little 3 dots, which by the way, you call that the hamburger. Students in the classroom knew that because we were talking about that the other day. Call that the hamburger, which is 3 dots, so 2 pieces of bread and meat. I know, right? How do we come up with this stuff? Okay, so I think that's it. So just looking ahead at this week, in week 3, you have your hands-on is your first Code Academy. So you'll be setting up your accounts. I did give a link to a previous semester where I was talking about this in class. And I talk about that you need to complete the HTML basics, which is the first item, right? So if I click over here, so first you have to set up your account, right? You can use your Gmail to log in, which I think is perfectly fine, but do set up a profile pic of some type so I can tell that it's you, right? And then take a print screen. And in this case, I'm going to change this to where it's the embed. So I want you to use the embed here. Remember, in this previous semester, I didn't use the embed command. So even though you may check this out for how I've talked about it, you still want to do that. And then also, and let's just go over here and look at it. On the HTML and CSS, you only have to do the HTML basics. You can choose to do the build your own website for adding an item to your late grade points returned spreadsheet that I talked about last week. Okay, so when you get to the end of this, you'll get a badge, and so that badge is what I want to have a print screen of. And I'm just going to go in and look at it just so you can see I've already been through this. As a matter of fact, I'll show you this, is I also give each step. Right, so each step I give print screen so that you can look at the steps. So in case you get hung up, you can look at how I've done the work. And Really, this is because in this class we're really just introducing you to these concepts. If you go on and study this later, obviously it'd just be a more in-depth look at this, right? All right, so that's the way this happens. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this. So if I come in here and I look, you can see the check marks are all the way at the end, and I think at the very end, the last one that you do when you submit the code, right? Go to the next course. There should be a badge, and maybe I'm not getting it because I've already completed this. Oh yeah, it's wanting to do a little. Let me just skip that. Let me skip that. This website, which is awesome, Code Academy, actually now has more advanced features to do other things, but we're using only the free part of this site. So I think when you do this, what will happen? Oh, it's sending me to the to build your own website. But when you do this, I believe you will get a badge, and then once you get that, that's what I want a print screen of. So let me just see real quick if I can find the badges. I think if I come up here, view my account, view my profile, HTML, CSS. I think I should see my badges. Okay, so if you don't for some reason, I think they're still there, but at least taking a print screen here that shows your account or this right here that you've completed it with the check mark, okay? Anyway, I'll take a look at that and see if there was somewhere else that I just, matter of fact, let me hold on and let me do that. There it is. It was right there in front of me, my badges, right? So what you can do is as you get each badge, right? So if I go all the way down, you'll see the first one, right? You'll see, you're not going to, because this will be, you won't have this because most of you probably haven't done Code Academy. So you'll be able to take your print screen. If you don't get a look at the badge, just go to your profile, and then under your profile, once you complete, you'll get a badge, right? So that's how you get those. Okay, so the last thing, I think that let's look at what else we have this week. Nothing new. So the new thing that we have this week is the Code Academy. Okay, and then the HTML. This is here. This is nothing new. You've done this last week. So in addition to this relatively short video, I'm going to have you, and let me just look at it here so you can see it. I'll have linked in here the video that you're watching now, and then I'm going to have you watch 30 minutes of Humanity from Space and use that. So you'll have part one will be this video, and then part two, and you'll say that part two is Humanity from Space. And this is great. I actually recommend watching this whole thing if you wanted to. That could be an opportunity there to, if you watched the whole thing and took notes, to add to your late points removed. But what's required, and I link it such, and what that means is when you click on it, you actually get placed into this part of the video, and then you'll watch it to the end, right? So you'll start at 1 hour and 23, and again, the whole thing's awesome, but you'll need to watch it to the end and take notes because there's some really talks about technology in this case, and before then it talks about some of the other really important things in our world, and it starts with really food, right? So and that's really where I wanted to end, right? Is for this week was talking about, last week I was giving you, kind of a little about me. The one thing that I would say, it's I think good to know too about what my life is that I eat mostly a vegan diet, and I think it feels good in my body, and I think it's just a better way to walk in the planet. And for a lot of reasons, you'll see in this video how much water it takes to actually produce meat. So there's not just environmental reasons for me, there's also spiritual reasons for me, and I just feel better. I've noticed in general, I just feel better. I'm not telling anyone else how to live, I'm just telling you how I personally have chosen to try to be a gentler footprint on the planet. The other thing I do is we capture in our house about 80% of our water for reuse. It is a legit system. I know there's been some talk about whether that's an okay thing to do, but we've done it in a legit way, meaning it's actually done by a certified water specialist that's helped build it. So our showers, when we shower, it actually what comes out of the drain runs out to the trees, and then our washer actually goes out to other places in the yard to do that. And we just need to get smarter, right? I mean, and I believe we are starting to collect collectively come up with some wonderful ideas. So, anyway, that's FYI. That's enough for this week. I didn't plan on going that far, but that's good. I think it's all good. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in week 4.